GMNA uses artificial intelligence for generated speech, visuals, and production. AI-generated content may contain errors. Please verify important information before making decisions or taking action. Live from the GMNA News Center, this is the Lunch Break News Hour.
Good afternoon, I'm CJ Waterhouse. Tonight we'll examine the health agency's call for an independent probe after 3 minors died at a Montreal youth center, get an update on the Atwater water pipe replacement timeline, and remember Steve's music store closing after 61 years. Over to you, Jeff.
The Midsummer Street Arts Festival kicks off this Friday evening on St. Laurent Boulevard, offering live music stages, food trucks, and dozens of local artisans showcasing handmade crafts.
Admission is free for all ages, and families can enjoy a dedicated kids zone with interactive workshops, face painting, and storytelling sessions throughout the festival weekend.
Organizers anticipate over 10,000 visitors each day, encouraging riders to use the St. Laurent Metro station and designated bike racks to ease downtown traffic congestion.
Our schedule includes community updates and event highlights, so lots to get to. Now we'll move directly into the news. Good morning, Montreal.
Santé Quebec has ordered an independent probe into the deaths of 3 minors at Batcho Youth and Family Centre in Montreal, questioning the facility's oversight of its English language youth protection services. Matthew Lachance has the full story.
Health officials in Quebec have ordered an independent probe after 3 minors died while in the care of a city youth centre. The request comes from Santé Quebec, which says the deaths raise serious concerns and warrants a thorough review. The center involved is part of Batcho Youth and Family Centres, the agency that delivers English language youth protection and social services across Montreal. Authorities will assemble a team of external experts to examine the circumstances surrounding the incidents that occurred earlier this week, with the goal of determining any procedural lapses. Families have been notified, and the investigation will be conducted in full transparency. Today, Matthew Lachance, GMNA News Plateau.
U.S.-bound flights from Montreal were canceled today after a construction site near the airport emitted a strong odor, prompting officials to advise travelers to verify their flight status before heading to the terminal. Matthew Lachance has the full story.
Construction work near the airport released a strong smell that forced the cancellation of several flights heading to the United States. Airline officials halted boarding while crews investigated the source, and passengers were told to check their flight status before heading to the terminal. The odor, described by travelers as chemical and unpleasant, prompted airport security to limit access to the affected concourse until the air quality returned to safe levels. No injuries were reported, and airlines are working to reschedule the affected services. Travelers are advised to stay tuned for updates as the situation develops. The incident occurred on July 29, 2026, and officials said the smell is expected to dissipate once the work pauses. Matthew Lachance, GMNA News, Dorval.
Montreal refugee advocates are urging the Canadian government to admit Haitian migrants after the Trump administration ended U.S. deportation protections for hundreds of thousands, prompting a potential influx. Nadia Bellafuel has the full story.
Advocates for refugees gathered in Montreal today, pressing the federal government to open its doors to Haitian nationals now facing removal from the United States. The Trump administration has just stripped temporary protection that shielded hundreds of thousands of Haitians, forcing many to look northward for safety. Community leaders say the abrupt policy shift leaves families in limbo and risks a humanitarian spillover at the border. They urge Ottawa to coordinate swift intake measures, citing existing settlement programs that could absorb newcomers. Officials have not yet responded, but the call intensifies as the United States prepares to resume deportations next month. The pressure builds for Canada to act before the situation escalates. Nadia Bellafuel, GMNA News, Montreal. Ontario's progressive conservative legislators are re-examining financial and political backing for the Alto high-speed rail linking Quebec City and Toronto after a Billy Bishop Airport proposal was rejected. Matthew Lachance has the full story.
Ontario's progressive conservative legislators are now pulling back on their financial and political commitment to the Alto high-speed rail linking Quebec City and Toronto. The shift comes after the province's request to involve Billy Bishop Airport in the project was turned down, prompting officials to question the value of their contribution. With 11 members of the governing caucus voicing concern, the government is reviewing both funding levels and its role in cross-border coordination. The Alto line, still in planning, would require joint investment and shared infrastructure, but Ontario officials say the airport setback has forced a reassessment of priorities before any further money is pledged. Matthew Lachance, GMNA News, Toronto.
Montreal is proceeding cautiously on the Atwater water main replacement, citing timeline and cost concerns as only 2 of 4 sections are finished. City officials say the project remains on schedule. Colette Barbeau has the full story.
Work crews are midway through swapping out the aging Atwater water main, with 2 of the 4 sections already finished. City engineers say the project remains on hold while they refine cost estimates and adjust the schedule, so no firm completion date has been set. Heavy equipment has been stationed along Atwater Avenue, and crews are rerouting traffic around the active dig sites. Residents have reported intermittent water pressure drops in nearby blocks as sections are shut off for replacement. The municipality promises to keep the disruption to a minimum, but warns that additional lane closures may be required as the remaining sections are tackled. The effort is part of a broader plan to modernize Montreal's water infrastructure. Colette Barbeau, GMNA News, Atwater. Later we'll see how the judge's decision lets 2 Quebec colleges get back to teaching. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
Watch the local sunset tonight at 6 p.m. for all your local Montreal news.
Good morning, Montreal.
Good morning, Montreal.
The court has lifted the province's suspension of operating permits for 2 private colleges, clearing the way for classes to restart today. A Quebec judge ruled that the government's refusal to renew the permits was halted, allowing faculty and students to return to campus. The decision affects hundreds of international students whose studies were in limbo after the permits were withdrawn earlier this year. Administrators at both institutions said they are preparing to welcome students back and resume normal schedules. The government has not yet commented on next steps for oversight or future permit reviews. That's the latest from the courtroom. Classes are set to begin on Monday, giving students a chance to catch up on missed coursework. Ramai Gaudreau, GMNA News, Montreal.
Quebec's government approved rebuilding the Saint-Pierre Highway interchange in Montreal, ending a decade-long study and promising smoother traffic for commuters. The project moves forward this month. Ramai Gaudreau has the full story.
Construction crews are set to begin tearing down the aging Saint-Pierre interchange this summer, after the provincial government gave the green light for a full rebuild. Officials say the new design will widen lanes, add dedicated turn pockets, and improve merge points, aiming to smooth traffic for the thousands of commuters who use the corridor daily. The project follows more than 10 years of studies and public consultations, and it will be funded through a mix of provincial and municipal resources. Work is expected to start in July and will run for several years, with temporary detours and nighttime closures planned to keep traffic moving. The overhaul is part of a broader effort to modernize Montreal's highway network. Ramai Gaudreau, GMNA News, Saint-Pierre.
Montreal Pride is allocating about 10% of its budget to enhance security, prevention, and well-being measures after the deadly attack on Berlin's Pride celebration. Organizers say safety is a priority. Colette Barbeau has the full story.
Organizers of Montreal Pride are reshaping the festival's safety plan ahead of this summer's events. After a deadly assault on a Pride parade in Berlin, the committee has earmarked roughly 10% of the entire festival budget for security, prevention, and well-being initiatives. On the ground, additional police officers are being briefed, extra barriers are set up around main stages, and volunteer safety crews are receiving new training. Mobile first aid stations will be positioned at each venue, and a dedicated liaison team is coordinating with city emergency services. The heightened measures aim to protect participants while preserving the celebratory atmosphere that defines the city's Pride weekend. Colette Barbeau, GMNA News, Montreal. Quebec's microbrewery sector, after 2 decades of rapid growth, saw its first decline in 15 years as counts fell over the past 2 years, amid rising inflation and shifting consumer habits. Ramai Gaudreau has the full story.
The latest industry data shows the count of microbrewery firms in Quebec slipped in both 2024 and 2025, breaking a 15-year stretch of expansion that followed 2 decades of rapid growth. Analysts point to a mix of factors. Brewers are retooling their business models, inflationary pressure is squeezing margins, and consumer drinking patterns are shifting away from craft beers toward other options. The contraction marks the first downward turn in over 10 years, signaling a pause after years of new taps and brewery openings across the province. Officials said the trend will be monitored closely as the sector adjusts to the new economic climate. Some smaller producers have already announced plans to consolidate or diversify into non-alcoholic lines, hoping to retain market share. Ramai Gaudreau, GMNA News, Montreal.
A new ARTM study finds extending the Montreal Metro Orange Line could remove thousands of cars from the city's most congested corridor, easing traffic on a heavily used road sector. Ramai Gaudreau has the full story.
The new ARTM study shows that finishing the Orange Line and pushing it further into the east could pull thousands of cars off one of the Metro's busiest road corridor. Planners crunched traffic models and found that a completed loop would divert commuters who now sit in gridlock on the heavily traveled stretch that links downtown to the eastern suburbs. The line today stops short of those neighborhoods, leaving many riders to drive instead of ride. Extending the tracks and closing the loop has been on the table for years, and the latest numbers suggest a tangible easing of congestion if the project moves forward for commuters across the region. Ramai Gaudreau, GMNA News, Montreal.
Now let's check the outlook with our weather team for this afternoon.
A low-pressure ridge edging north, steered by a southerly jet, leaves Montreal overcast and drizzle-laden at noon. On this date, the city sweltered to a record high of 31.7 degrees in 2015, a peak that rode the tail of an unprecedented heat wave across southern Quebec. By contrast, the coldest thermometer ever read 11.4 degrees in 2017, when an Arctic air mass slipped unusually far south, blanketing the St. Lawrence Valley in frost. Normal July, highs sit near 23 degrees with lows around 15. So today's mild 21 degrees feels noticeably cooler than the historical extremes. The live radar shows a thin band of drizzle marching eastward from the Ottawa-Lake Ontario corridor. Echoes peak just before noon over the western suburbs, then thin out as they cross the island. By the time the minute hand hits 12, the precipitation reaches downtown and begins to dissipate, leaving a clean, overcast sky by early afternoon. The quieting pattern reflects a stable air mass slipping in behind the departing low. At noon, Montreal sits under a thick overcast veil with a temperature of 21 degrees and a dew point near 19, making the air feel damp. A low-pressure center is slowly rising, ushering drier, more stable air from the northwest, while a southerly jet stream at 52 kilometers per hour streams overhead, keeping the system tilted and limiting further development. Winds remain light, 8 kilometers per hour from the southeast, peaking at 11 kilometers per hour later this afternoon. UV Index 2 reflects the weak solar angle behind the clouds. No rain is expected for the remainder of the day, and the only active alerts are rainfall warnings for the Rodin-Joliet and Saint-Adèle-Saint-Sauveur regions. With the pressure rising, conditions will stay steady as we head toward the evening. Looking ahead, Thursday brings another overcast day with a high near 24 degrees and a low around 17, as the lingering low-pressure ridge still drapes the region. Friday climbs to a milder 27 degrees at its peak, while lows remain near 19, the sky staying uniformly gray. Saturday repeats the 27-degree high, but introduces a 40% chance of rain in the afternoon as a weak trough nudges the jet southward. Sunday turns markedly wetter, with a 24-degree high, a low of 17, and a 75% rain probability as the trough deepens. Monday finally clears, offering a crisp 26-degree high, a low of 17, and a blue sky that signals the end of this unsettled stretch. And that's your weather. Remember, the lunch break is also available as a podcast. Listen anytime on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Up next, traffic updates, a look at Chamber Spotlight on Steve's Music Store, and preview of Habs trade chatter. We will be right back.
Watch the local sunset tonight at 6 p.m. for all your local Montreal news.
All major routes are running freely this morning. Autoroute 15 eastbound shows smooth flow, with travel times matching normal free flow conditions. Autoroute 75 westbound is clear, no slowdowns reported near the Dakery interchange. Boulevard St. Laurent both directions is moving at normal speed, and Rue St. Denis downtown remains unimpeded. The downtown core, including Rue Sherbrooke and Rue St. Catherine, reports no congestion. Across the island, the Champlain Bridge and the Victoria Bridge are clear, with no queues at the toll plazas. With no incidents on the road network, commuters can expect a steady ride into the early afternoon. Historically, traffic begins to build around the 1 o'clock lunch window, especially on the southwest corridor toward the Université de Montreal and on the east side near the Honoré-Beaugrand corridor. Drivers should stay alert for the typical increase in volume after lunch. Cyclists on the Lachine Canal path report unobstructed lanes, and the clear sky means no weather-related delays.
Fierté Montreal Pride 2026 is lighting up the city's indoor scene, with parties, plays, comedy, and dance shows spilling across venues today. If you're looking for a vibrant celebration of LGBTQ+ culture, this is the place to be. Over at Time Out Market Montreal, the rain can't stop the fun. The market offers free kids' activities and even a pop-up Cirque du Soleil performance, making it the perfect downtown refuge. For art lovers, Cirque du Soleil's Echo exhibition has set up an exclusive behind-the-scenes photo showcase inside the market, letting you glimpse the magic that never reaches the main stage. It's a chance to see the troupe's most iconic moments up close, and it's free to wander. All three experiences are happening right now, so whether you crave high-energy celebration, family-friendly indoor play, or a glimpse behind the curtain, Montreal's cultural pulse is beating strong today. And now here's Jason with sports.
Habs' summer moves reshape the roster, sparking debates on talent and depth. The Habs sit atop the league's elite under-25 cores, but the Marchenko price tag looms like a king's ransom. Management must decide whether the Russian winger's upside justifies sacrificing future assets, a choice that could tilt the balance of Montreal's forward depth heading into the season. Montreal's off-season buzz centers on the Sasha Pastujov swap and the emergence of Ivan Demidov. Pastujov adds size and a two-way game to a forward group already brimming with talent, while Demidov's breakout could push him into a top-6 role, forcing a re-evaluation of the current depth chart. The Canadiens completed a straight-up exchange, sending Sean Farrell to Anaheim for Sasha Pastujov, both restricted free agents. Pastujov's 23-year-old skill set offers a fresh offensive option on the wing, while Farrell's departure opens a slot for a younger prospect to earn minutes in the Canadiens' top-line rotation.
Steve's Music Store on St. Catherine Street in downtown Montreal has closed its doors after 61 years of serving the city's musicians. For generations, the shop stocked guitars, drums, keyboards, and the gear that turned bedroom rehearsals into stage-ready performances, becoming a gathering place for budding artists and seasoned pros alike. The decision came as rising rents and the surge of online retailers squeezed its margins, leaving the beloved retailer with no sustainable path forward. Its shuttering marks the end of a cultural landmark that helped shape Montreal's vibrant music scene, from indie bands to classical ensembles. Montreal loses more than a store. It loses a community hub that reminded us all that a city's soul sings in its local shops. And now a warm look back at Steve's Music Store, the iconic Montreal shop closing after 61 years of melodies.
Coming up tonight at 6, the local sunset. Your neighborhood, your city, your news. From city hall decisions to the stories happening right on your street, we cover what matters most to Montrealers. Join us tonight at 6 p.m. on gmna for the local sunset, Montreal's evening newscast.
City engineers say 2/3 of the critical Atwater Aqueduct along Atwater Avenue in the Ville-Marie borough are fixed and the project stays on schedule, but officials warn Montrealers must keep conserving water to prevent future shortages as repairs continue across the network. Carl Dumont is there. Carl Dumont.
Thanks CJ Waterhouse. I'm standing on Atwater Avenue, the concrete curb slick with early morning drizzle, and just beyond the street the brown-stained trench yawns open where crews have been tearing away the old pipe. Steel scaffolding climbs like a lattice over the exposed aqueduct, and the hum of hydraulic lifts mixes with the chatter of engineers in orange vests checking gauges. 2 of the 4 sections of the Atwater water main are already sealed, the fresh steel joints gleaming under the overcast sky. The city's water distribution network, which delivers drinking water to roughly 1.3 million residents, is finally seeing its most critical repairs come to life. Workers spray a faint mist of disinfectant, and a nearby resident watches, notebook in hand, reminding her teenage son to turn off the faucet while the work continues. The significance. With 2/3 of the lifeline restored, Montreal's water future still hinges on each household's conservation habits. Carl Dumont, virtually at Atwater Aqueduct. Good morning, Montreal. In Pierrefonds, Roxborough, residents continue clearing gypsum and floor debris left by June's heavy rains, facing costly repairs as insurance payouts fall short. Ramai Gaudreau has the full story.
Residents of Pierrefonds, Roxborough are still pulling floorboards and gypsum panels from the edges of their streets, a month after the June downpours that swamped the area. The heavy rain left yards of homes submerged, and today crews and volunteers are shoveling through piles of debris that have settled into the neighborhood sidewalks. Homeowners report paying out of pocket for repairs because insurance settlements have fallen short of the damage. The cleanup is taking weeks, with many families renting equipment to remove the material and patch cracked foundations. City officials say the water receded quickly, but the lingering mess will linger into the autumn. Local businesses along Boulevard St. Charles have cleared their driveways, hoping to reopen before the holiday rush. Ramai Gaudreau, GMNA News, Pierrefonds.
ARTM has outlined 8 priority zones to guide Montreal's next major transit project, aiming for decisions by 2029 as the REM nears completion and elections loom. Ramai Gaudreau has the full story.
8 priority zones have been earmarked for study as the next major public transport project in the region. The Autorité Régionale de Transport Métropolitain announced the zones this week, saying planners will evaluate them over the coming years with a target to decide on a location by 2029. The move comes as the Réseau Express Métropolitain nears completion, prompting officials to look ahead to the next large-scale system. Provincial elections are also on the horizon, adding a political backdrop to the planning process. The identified zones span key corridors across the city, from downtown cores to outer suburbs, and will guide future investment decisions. Ramai Gaudreau, GMNA News, Montreal.
Thank you, Montreal, for joining us on the lunch break. Today's oddball story about flights to the United States being grounded because of a construction odor reminded us that anything can happen in our city. We'll be back tomorrow with more news you need to hear. See you then. I'm CJ Waterhouse.